Hello and welcome to the last in the series of the nutrition lessons for the West Partnership. Today we are going to be summarising all our knowledge that we've been doing so far on nutrition and applying that to being able to answer exam style questions and using the answering techniques to do this. By the end of today, we should be able to identify the command words used in an HFT paper and demonstrate how to answer these, which include state, name, give and explain questions. So the first thing is, always read the question carefully. There are 4 types of questions that we could be asked in an At 5 Health and Food Technology paper, and each word assesses a particular skill and has a command word. Now, the command word is how the question wants us to answer. So the first one is very straightforward. It's almost like a bullet point answer. State, give, name and identify. We're basically listing the answer. There's no need for a further explanation. These questions are usually worth 1 mark. The second is a describe question. Again, no level of explanation needed in that. It is just very straightforward, describing, say, a function of a nutrient. The third way is an explain question, and this is where we are needed to give a little bit more detail in our answers. For every explain question, we need to give a fact and a consequence, which is worth 1 mark, and that will make a little bit more sense when we go through some examples of these questions. Lastly is an evaluate question, which we're not going to cover today. These are also known as the DRV questions, which are always worth 6 marks in an exam. So here, when we get this question, I would expect you to first of all highlight the command word. Now the command word is the command. What is it that this answer is looking for us to do? So here, give 2 sources of high biological value protein and 2 sources of low biological value protein. With this give, it requires us just to state, name, identify, give our points. We don't need any explanation here. We are just looking for straightforward, straight to the point answers. So the command word is give. The mark allocation is 4, so we have to give a list of 4 relevant items or facts, and no explanation is required. I'm going to just give you some time to do that. Copy that down into your jotters. I'm going to just let you be able to answer that question. You should be able to provide 2 high biological value proteins and 2 low biological value proteins. So for high biological value proteins, you could have any type of meat, chicken, fish, pork. You could also have eggs. And for low biological value proteins, you could have things like peas, beans, lentils, rice, oats, any of the above. Again, here is your answers. Here we have got state 2 functions of protein, so the command word being state, and the amount of marks awarded is 2, therefore I need 2 answers that state the functions of protein. Now that may seem very straightforward. You can obviously see there's function 1 and function 2 written down there in the question. However, not always is it laid out like this. It could just be the lines that you see. It might not clearly state 1 function and 2 function. So getting into the habit of looking at how many marks are awarded for that question will ensure that you are providing enough information. Again, the command word is state, the mark allocation is 2, so you should list a number of relevant facts or items. No explanation is required. You're going to copy that up and then answer that question without your notes. So 2 functions of protein that you could have here is for the growth, repair and maintenance of body cells and tissue. And a secondary function you could have here, the secondary function of protein is to provide energy. So the next command word we're going to look at is explain. The more detail Now, more detail is required in this answer here. So for every mark, we would like you to give a fact, which is a detailed fact about the context of the question, and a consequence, what is the impact of this fact. So here we go. Explain is the command word. This is what it is telling us to do, how we're going to lay this out. 2 benefits of health of increasing the intake of foods rich in total complex carbohydrates. Again, awarded 2 marks. Not always will you have 0.1, 0.2, but I know just by looking at the marks allocated, I must provide 2 explain points in order to get my full 2 marks for this question. So I'd like you to lay that out by writing the word fact and telling me your fact about total complex carbohydrates. Again, you must always link it to, this is what I was talking about, where you must always link it to the subject or the topic or the point of interest in the question. So here, the command word is explain. We have to do 2 explain answers. You must have 2 answers, making sure that you refer to the topic in the question. Here is an example. F for fact, total complex carbohydrates are a good source of dietary fibre. That is a fact, that's not going to change. However, the next part of the question will change as it is referring to what the question is about. So the question has asked us here, if I go back, benefits to health. So the next part of that answer, the total complex carbohydrates are a good source of dietary fibre, but the link to the question here about benefits to health is a consequence. This will help prevent bowel disorders. Quite often people give far too much information and they tend to waffle, and time is very important in these exams. And that is an example of one way that one point of this, you would need to do 2 of these fact consequences in order to get your 2 mark allocation. If you provide this amount of information, you are only going to get 1 mark awarded. So you have to give me another fact about total complex carbohydrates and a consequence of how that would help increase benefit health. So we now should be able to identify command words used in an HFT paper and demonstrate how to answer these, including state, name, give, and explain questions. This is the last in the series of the nutrition lessons for the WASTE Partnership. I would like you to have summarised what you have learned for answering techniques for your exam, and if anybody has any questions, then please don't hesitate to get in touch, and I hope that these videos have in some way helped you out. Thank you very much.